Hi guys, I'm Joshua, and I actually wanted to first start this video by asking you guys a question. So what is it that you think makes humans so unique? Because for me, I think what makes humans really special is the fact that when we're born, we're already destined to be different from everyone else who's lived or has lived on the earth. No two people are going to live the same life, and even twins with the same genetic makeup are going to live different lives. Our development is sort of reflective of like a tree branch, where there's a multitude of forces that can impact our life and will lead us into multiple directions. What if, however, our traits or our appearances or even like the career we wanted to go to in the future was all pre-selected for us before we are born? And that's what I'm discussing in today's topic because I'm looking at genetic engineering and I'm more specifically looking at parents selecting children's traits before they're born. So how are parents able to do this? Well, today scientists are actually using technology called CRISPR, and what CRISPR essentially does is it can go into live cells and study them, and it can analyze long sequences of DNA called genes in their nucleus. And what can happen through that is once those genes are identified, those genes can then be turned on or off, or they can be removed or added onto with new genes, and those cells can start expressing them. I even did this in GenBio 1 lab actually, where I took regular E. coli and I started making it glow in the dark after inserting a certain gene. But bringing it back to children, how can this technology affect them and what does it affect? Well, during early pregnancy, when a child is developing, what is happening is that they are being built from the ground up. However, if you do change those foundations, which are DNA, they will start expressing those traits instead of their natural ones because those have been edited and their natural traits have been cut out. So when they are born, they are going to possess those edited traits and their cells are going to have that DNA. So things such as appearances, eye color, intelligence, height, or even like a fast metabolism, something I wish I had, can all be affected due to gene editing. And this is actually where I'm going to have to disagree, even though it sounds really cool about the direction in which gene editing is taking. I think that it's a really slippery slope actually because it allows parents the opportunity to change their children into something that they like aesthetically or that they like behaviorally. So rather than letting their children be impacted by the environment or their genetic makeup, parents are already dictating how they want their children to live, and that doesn't sit right with me. This gives parents a lot of power over their children, and it can impose things such as like toxic beauty standards, for example, onto their children. For example, a lot of people in the Asian community like to whitewash their celebrities or themselves even in their photos, and people like to impose things such as height to be considered beautiful or dateable. Another thing that this also influences is the gene pool. And what I worry about the gene pool is that if these beauty trends are followed within children, it slowly decreases the amount of diversity that we have. The world is so diverse today, but by implementing these beauty trends, which are followed by a lot of people, it'll slowly decrease the gene pool as those children's traits are passed down onto their children, and so on and so forth. To me, I think people are already naturally beautiful and that they're already the best versions of themselves that they can be. However, it's up to oneself whether they believe those things are true, and that's why I believe that gene editing should be left up to the individual rather than the parents. So if this is a decision that one wants to make, they should have the full consent, and no one else should be able to impose their ideals onto them but themselves. The only exception, though, that I will make to this is if it's used for medical use or if it's used for gene therapy for genetic disorders. There are so many diseases that are caused by random mutations in DNA or by the inheritance of genetic disorders or traits, but gene editing has the power to change all of that. By going in and changing and fixing these mutations or traits, we're saving thousands, maybe even millions of people from disease and the suffering that entails disease. And while this is also changing the gene pool and it's allowing for the survival of the unfit, I believe that every human life is worth saving and that everyone should be able to live a life free from the suffering that comes with these diseases. All of this in mind, at the end of the day, I believe it's up to you how you wish to live your own life, and I don't think anybody else but you could decide on that. So I actually want to know what you guys think about this topic. Thank you so much for listening to my thoughts, and I hope to hear from you soon.